In this tale, there's a powerful alpha female heir. She's smart and capable, yet fate has destined her to lead a pack she doesn't want to. To make matters worse, She's just found her mate. A man She's never met but can't stop thinking about. But his arrival brings even more problems and conflicts. Will she choose her own dreams or follow fate's plan? Prologue. As the ages passed, the population of those without innate powers burgeoned, fostered by an unprecedented harmony among the five folk. Witches of old, blood drinkers, spell weavers, moon changers, and countless other mystical races. The skies were alive with winged beings, their plumagical kaleidoscope of hues, from iridescent rainbows to stark white and midnight black. They soared through gossamer clouds, while in the depth of the seas, creatures with translucent skin and bioluminescent scales darted through coral forest. The world pulsed with vibrant colors and potent magic, its inhabitants akin to deities and sovereigns of old. On terra firma, the various races began to intermingle, giving rise to a new species, humans, in a mere 2 centuries. The delicate balance crumbled. The once omnipresent magical beings faded into legend. Humanity, consumed by envy, coveted the power they could not possess. When acquisition proved futile, they turned to eradication, seeking to purge the supernatural from their realm. Betrayal festered as humans turned against their own kin, those of pure magical lineage, armed with ancestral secrets. They forged weapons of molten silver, crafted wooden stakes, and wove nets and traps of cold iron. The supernatural population plummeted, their numbers dwindling at an alarming rate. Within a millennium, humans ascended to dominance. The remaining supernatural beings were forced to adapt, either shapeshifted into animal forms or adopting human guises to blend seamlessly into the new world order. Survival became paramount as witch hunts and warlock burnings became commonplace, the pyre's flames consuming both the innocent and the arcane. In the face of such relentless persecution, the will to resist abandoned the pure born. Their once mighty spirits, now broken, could no longer summon the strength to fight against the tide of human supremacy. They fought for centuries, but it wasn't enough when humans could create more of their own kind and the supernatural caldant. Not only were they sparse in numbers, but they were in grave danger as well. Interbreeding was no longer accepted between the supernatural species. It didn't matter how much a supernatural being might love another. Interbreeding was one mistake their ancestors made that they were determined not to repeat. The spirit world collapsed dramatically. They couldn't control nor harm the humans. They didn't belong to the spirits of the moon, sun, or stars, including those of fire, earth, water, and wind. Their chaos left the world in war and disarray. However, the great spirits knew one thing. They needed more pure, born children born from their own race. Thus, mates were given to those granted with powers by the spirits. Souls became intertwined, guaranteeing a pure born, while creating a type of bond that even death could not destroy. Some werewolf packs chose their natural form they used to fight each other for more land and food. Others chose their human side, some even ruling as kings and queens. But once the Great War started, they were forced to assimilate their human form. That's when a treaty between the werewolves was established. They stopped fighting each other, especially when their mates might be in another's pack and instead fought against the humans. The transition to having mates was confusing at first, not only for the werewolves but also for every other supernatural being. Therefore, the spirits guided them to each other. They made sure no matter where, how, or when, they would meet. Not only was this a way to further the supernatural race, it was also a way to stop the hybrids from forming. In very rare occasions when two different powers collided, a hybrid formed instead of human, a 1 in a billion chance, if that. However, the hybrid, that particular child, would not only have both powers, but once they reached his or her full potential, they could raise havoc unlike any other upon the earth, and the spirit world would do anything to stop them. One preparation, nay, SP. OV, it was unnatural for a wolf to have not found their mate by the age of 25. Considering the werewolf community had dwindled down to only a handful of packs in this modern day and age, it was harder to hide in the human world, which, in fact, increased the rate of meeting one's mate. Packs were not in war anymore. A peace treaty was established by our ancestors. Therefore, each year, unmated wolves would travel to different packs to seek out their mates. To the humans, it seemed like a vacation to a different part of the world or country. That is how it was supposed to look like. Hiding in plain sight. Unfortunately for me, I haven't found mine yet. In 22, for God's sake, and my parents had sent me to every vacation there possibly was. But nope. It seemed like my mate was and probably still is hiding from me. Being the daughter of the Alpha of our pack, I had many responsibilities. One of them had been to plan the upcoming annual leadership gala that my father was hosting after quite a few years. Every year the alphas of all if not most packs gathered together with their heirs to strategy about a better way to keep the werewolf community together so we don't become extinct like the metro colonies. Packs became tribes. Tribes became communities. A label given to us by the humans to describe a community of people who didn't like to integrate with others. Now, with the high technological world, it was much harder to not socialize. Some packs around the world decided to lock themselves in one community in a land surrounded by trees bought from the government. The outside world saw them as cults, but in reality, they just didn't want their secret to get out. Nor did they want any more killings of their kind by the humans. Those particular alphas or the packs were as modern as my own or any of the other I am more familiar with. My father saw himself as a community leader more than an alpha, and he was the only one. It was hard to put these two polarizing opinions in one place without some wolves, butting heads. But one thing was always clear. Protect one another and our secret at any cost. Naya, can you recheck the number of rooms you book at the hotel? I don't want anything to go wrong, my dear. My mother's voice floated through the closed door of my room. She knocked and opened the door without waiting for me to reply. That move drove me crazy as a teenager, and now, I don't even know why I moved back after college. Everything is done. I even called the people who were hosting some alphas at their home. Jane Mile Drigg, the beta's wife, Margaret O'Neill, Roger Spencer, and Priscilla Gomez are all more than happy to host the weekend for the alphas who weren't comfortable with staying at the hotel with high activity of humans. I replied without turning around in my chair. Instead, I stared at the white realm of snow covering every surface of my mother's beloved garden. The chill in the air did nothing to me. It only made me want to crawl out of my human skin into the light gray wolf. A garage door opening couple of miles away caught my eyes. A human family with 2 kids rolled out of their driveway and drove off along the rows of houses before turning the corner to disappear. A sad sigh left my lung. I cowled and just burst into my wolf and go running whenever I want to. The primal instinct never dies, no matter how integrated you feel. Done, but am still worried about 3 alphas under one roof. My mother tinkered around my room, putting things back in place where they belonged. What? I asked, realizing that I missed half of her monologue. I said the guest rooms are done, but don't be. Well, separate them. Alpha Ocean Evero can stay in the right wing with his beta in the next room, and Alpha Dalton can take the left wing with his wife. Stop panicking. There's much more serious matters in hand. I closed the planner in front of me. Not only did it contain every detail about the weekend, but topics of new problems arising from within the community. I know. You're doing such a good job. I'm so proud of you. My mother started stroking the back of my head in a comforting motion. Don't worry about those other alphas. Say you were born with alpha blood. You are more than capable of running this pack. I'm not worried about that. I truly wouldn't mind Alex taking over. HES mated and HES older. I don't think our tribe would have a problem with him leading the— What nonsense, my mom exclaimed. Just because we are not some backwards hillbillies doesn't mean we would allow just any beta to run the pack. He doesn't have the mental capacity to run any pack. Her astonished voice encouraged me to peel my eyes away from the calm nirvana writhing outside my window towards my mother with light brown. I never did inherit her bluish-gray eyes. Just plain gray. She was right. An alpha was more in tune with the spirit world. We were gifted with the power of not only communicating with our family at all time but the whole tribe as well, in and out of wolf form. We have a gift of command that is accepted by others within the tribe. Whereas Anon, titled Wolf, would only be able to communicate with their family member and in human form, but as wolves in our primitive nature, we could communicate with everybody. HES the beta. But HES merely in his third S. I think he's more than capable of keeping the tribe together. I suggested. It's not about that. I mean, look at us. Living amongst humans. Accepting their laws. We have evolved, but we still mustn't forget who we are. What our ancestors went through for us to get here. We can't give up on all our culture. She had a great point, but one of the many things of that particular culture was to have a son who could take over the alpha role. But my parents didn't care about that. They were more than happy with me. They wanted me to take over. Sad thing was I didn't want to, but somehow I excelled at it. Taking care of every member of the pack. Making sure the first wolf transition for teenagers were done as discreetly as possible. It came as a second nature to me. Something still missing. It was my heart talking no. I don't think it had anything to do with me not finding a mate. In the back of my mind there are lingering memories or daydreams I make up sometimes. Full vivid dreams that seem so real, but the minute I try to touch it they vanish into smoke. Shaking away the haziness from my head, I flipped the itinerary closed in front of me. I know some of the alphas coming today will not like the idea of a mate, Leshy Wolf, female alpha, to take over when I get older. But if it's supposed to happen, then I won't back down. Don't worry, Mom. She had perched herself on corner of my brown silk-covered bed. It was odd to be back in this room. I had changed it before I moved back. From light pink to maroon and black accented walls just seemed right. The colors screamed home to me, even though they were never my favorite colors. Before we could continue, the doorbell rang through the marble stairs, gliding its way up to my room. That's probably Lucy and her catering team bringing all the food down for tonight's supper. She said everything will be ready. All we have to do is reheat and serve. Alex said we could use his kitchen as well so we can serve at the same time. Picking up my phone to check the time, I realized that we were 1 hour away from the arrivals of the two closed community alphas. 2 hours from dinner. Good. My mother seemed thoroughly pleased. Usually it was a job for the alpha female to organize and host an event like this, but I wanted all experiences. To serve or lead. I wanted to learn it all. She got up as well, straightening her royal blue dress that ended way below her knees. Her hair hung in layers just below her shoulder blades. Why don't you go put your feet up for a while and you'll take care of everything? I asked, taking in the wrinkles around her eyes. She smiled, making the lines more prominent. A proud gleam in her blue eyes. The gray seems to have disappeared somewhere. It made me tilt the left side of my lips slightly. AGH, am so proud of you. A degree and all. When did you get so big? She started to fix my hair into place, avoiding any eye contact. I could see the tears forming in her eyes. Yes, I joked, trying to lighten the mood. Don't worry, honey. With that business knowledge you can start something on your own. Like everyone does these days. I'm just happy you're home. I hugged her. Tightly. Even though it was slightly embarrassing to be doing absolutely nothing. I did help my dad out with his construction company. With bills, new shipments, and hiring. I made sure that every one of them were wolves. Didn't matter from what packs they were from. It was better to work that way with super strengths. Away from human scrutiny. I miss you too, I whispered. Now go. Rest, then put on a nice dress for tonight. Without a backward glance, I left her standing there in the middle of my room. My mother felt sorry for me. It was evident in every aspect of her expressions when she spoke to me. She found my dad in their first summer camp together that my dad's pack hosted. Right in this mansion. My mother didn't leave after that. Her parents came down here from Queensland, a floating near the coast of South, Western Hemisphere, all the way across the Poseidon Ocean. The bell rang just moments before I opened the door, revealing a smiling Lucy with a huge tray on both of her palms. The different amount of aromas had already hit me before they even got out of the car. Now it's even more amazing. My mouth salivated. She was a great cook. She catered nearly all events in our pack and some big ones in our neighboring packs in Western Hemisphere. Not to mention humans too. Smiling slightly, I greeted her and her team before moving away from the door, allowing her and her team to find their own way to the kitchen. It's not like they didn't know where it was. Sometime after, I found myself wandering around the huge dining hall. My dad built an extension next to the kitchen downstairs. It was filled with circular tables of different sizes to accommodate at least to alphas and their families or betas. The black and white marble hall had high walls and 3 crystal chandeliers at equal intervals across the middle of the ceiling, glistening like diamonds across the reflective surfaces all around the room. Golden and silver colors accented everything. A weird sense of déjà vu hit me suddenly from nowhere, making me dizzy. Higher stone ceiling with candle holder brass chandeliers. Wooden fire sticks on each surface of the hall. 2 huge chairs, side by side. Oh! 2 hands grabbed me from the back to stop me from falling over. The chairs became hazy, looked more like a silhouette of something. 1.5 surprised IAP. Ovi, are you alright? What was that? Connor asked me frantically, steadying me instantly. A déjà vu? I don't know. I shook my head slightly, not understanding why I was having so many lately, but none had come close to having such intensity like this one. Hey, look at me. Are you sure you're okay? He turned me around to face him. He used to be one of my best friends once upon a time. His warm brown eyes did nothing to comfort me. Too much time had passed. HES no more than a stranger to me. My height and hearing senses picked a clicking noise scraping across the floor, making its way towards the hall. Detaching myself from him, I'm walking around the round table, straightening the fine titanium cutlery with intricate filigree designs. Are there any new developments in the Rixon assignment? Or are the investors still holding out? Because if that's the case, I'd rather look somewhere for the money. It's been too long and we can't keep our workers on hiatus for that long. They need paychecks. If they can't come up with any good deals, then we move on to the Mossy Man project. I had managed to fold my arms and stare right in his eyes while I spoke to him. I knew Lucy had entered through the open double doorway, taking in our conversation. I didn't want to linger around her or Connor more than I needed to. Neither did I feel like explaining anything to him. Turning slightly, I walked towards the way she came in. Good luck with tonight. I can tell the food is going to be amazing. I spoke softly, a polite tone that had been void when I ordered Connor. Lucy was pretty and petty, small and slim. She smiled slightly, green eyes wandering from me to Connor. Then Connor had said nothing of him. It was better that way, so I walked away. Connor and I were never anything. Neither did we have feelings for each other, but we grew up together, went to school together, ran through our first full moon after transition. Not only Connor but Macy, Jackson, Miesha. Jackson had found his May around 18. She was a timid Omega who called in Coben a new pack, so he left to live near her family. We still kept in touch, but it's been nearly 4 years and things never seemed to stay the same. The other girls found their mate around their 20s and all moved away instantly, promising to keep in touch. Misha had a child soon after. I guess Macy and I didn't talk baby enough, so we slowly lost the closeness. Even though Macy was mated on a whole different hemisphere than me, we were still inseparable. We text all the time, Skype and travel back often. I didn't know if it was for the fact that it had been only 1 year that she left or that we were actually really close. I was opting for the latter one. That left Connor. We got really close when Macy left, like a brother that I never had. There were no romantic feelings from either of us, and I was extremely ecstatic when he found his mate. It made me feel like I gained a new family member, only to have her stop Connor from seeing me as often because she didn't understand the reason behind why a mated wolf would need to be friend with an unmated she-wolf. Connor seemed embarrassed by her way of thinking, but still cowed in to pose her. It made sense. She came from a closed-gated wolf community. Their rules were less modern than ours. Macy had fully stopped talking to him. Sometimes, on special occasion when all 5 of us get the opportunity to spend some time together, Lucy always pulls Connor away, accusing of not seeing her as his friend and not wanting to spend time with her. According to Miesha, if she could leave her baby with her mate for a couple of hours, so could Connor leave his baby of a mate somewhere else. Slowly we stopped inviting him to things, and I've never seen the poor boy so lonely. Mating gave you your soulmate. Everything else is still a work in progress. Mating doesn't mean you won't have insecurities or arguments. Connor loves her. She made him happy when they were in ignorant bliss. As an alpha heir, I can feel their bond, but he was damn lonely because no one, not even guys from the construction company, would hang out with him. They tried but soon gave up. It was none of my business anymore. I just wished I could replace him with Macy. Thinking of her made me smile. She moved to the northern hemisphere with her mate Aaron. He was also the beta of their pack that belonged to Ocean Evero. Calden had been happier for her. That's why I arranged for him to stay in our home. Aaron and Macy would take the room next to him. I had initially thought that Vince Adams would host them, including the alpha, but I knew he and Aaron were still uncomfortable around each other. Our aunt was used to human traditional holidays, so when they had stayed with her parents over Christmas, things didn't go too well. Aaron had gotten into an argument with her father Vince about celebrating a human holiday. I couldn't believe Aaron had done that. He ended up sleeping in the room where HES staying at this time. I absolutely adored Aaron. I hadn't expected him to pick a fight with his mate's father. Vince was an doctor at the Royal Blue Gates Hospital with a couple of other werewolves from the only other community in the city, and Ems who's a nurse. These days, one city had one tribe. However, Greenville was a big enough city to harbor two, and we got along extremely well. Hence Alfred Alton Williams was staying in the left wing with Sasha, his lovely mate. Thinking about it, I've met most of the alphas there were around the world. It was my job to. However, I had never met Alpha Ocean. He would always send Aaron to his job saying he doesn't like being around humans, and being on a plane with them for longer than 10 hours would drive him insane. It made sense. Alpha Ocean's parents were killed by humans when he was only 17. I was barely 15 when I heard what had happened. My parents went to visit him with other alphas around the world to pay their respects. I was grateful that Alpha Ocean had finally decided to travel all the way down here. I understood why it was important. The fact that many wolves started to go missing all around the world. We knew we had a bigger problem in our hands. They were already a close-knit community with olden tribal mentalities, but after what had happened, they closed themselves off with large walls, vast lands of trees and mountains. A land I loved even if I have never visited it. It's only been 1 year since Macy left. She texted me so many pictures I was in awe. She could go running whenever she wanted to without being spotted. But she didn't always live there. I had dreams about what's similar to that. Running free with a large black wolf. Sometimes I was in human form. Felt hands sliding down my body. Soft kisses left a moist trail of markings down my neck to the collarbone. Tree barks digging into my back. These dreams made me realize how deep my yearning was for a mate. Reminiscing about those dreams left me feeling guilty, causing me to shake my head from side to get rid of them. I found myself treading up the stairs towards my room. I had to get ready for tonight. I couldn't allow anything to distract me. Nearly an hour later, I found myself in front of the long mirror in my closet. My dad spoiled me with a lovely walk-in closet when I was 16. He turned the guest room into an office for me or my mother, and the other half was my closet. It used to hold light and colorful clothes, but as I grew up, everything turned into dark colors. Maroon always stuck with me for some reason. Hence the plain maroon dress that draped over my body that ended just above my knees. A sleeveless dress that accentuated my top half because of the slim design of the dress that ended near my hips to spread out into a skirt that created vertical waves all around. My gray were surrounded by a light dusting of a deep red shadow without looking diseased. Thin eyeliner with a small flick at the end to extend my upturned eyes sat at the base of my mascara-coated lashes. Lips were painted with peach gloss and black wavy hair that ended past my hips. There were no highlights, just darkness. My advanced hearing picked up the noise of the engine that my father drove. As a courtesy, he went to the airport to pick up Alpha Ocean. Aaron and Macy, considering it was his first time ever. The families that were hosting guests at their home did the same thing to show their respects. Alphas who had been here before or didn't have a problems with humans made their way to hotel I sussed out. Some chose to get their own ride to the hotel, but Alfred Alton had offered to lend his car from the rental company that one of the member of his pack was in charge of. It was a 4-star hotel and I booked out a whole floor, so they didn't have unnecessary humans lurking around. It was a lot of money being spent, but it was highly important, and every time we went to meetings, we received similar treatments. We had to keep up. Basie didn't know I was home. I was supposed to be in Casavio in the Central Hemisphere. Most of the mated young wolves were there. I could have been there, finding my mate, but I didn't bother this year. It was humiliating to be a 22-year walking around those 17-year-olds. Smiling to myself, I decided to surprise her. By the time I had raced downstairs in my 3-inch heels, my dad's Range Rover was curing around the lawn fountain. That's when it hit me. As soon as I opened the door, it was there. It clawed into my stomach. My mouth salivated and tingles shot through my arms, lingering at my fingertips. A whimper sneaked past my lips when my lungs forestalled its breath out. My eyes found its way towards the passenger side of the car. Mate. To mate me as P. Oh shit. The big bulky man leapt out of the car before it even stopped in front of the mini staircase leading up to the 2 double doors for the entrance of the mansion. I didn't know what was happening to me. The sides of my vision started to darken, creating a tunnel vision, focusing on this person coming towards me. He wore a simple white shirt that stretched over his bulging body and a simple dark brown cargo shorts. The buzzing noise in my ears started to increase as he got closer. My wolf wanted to explode out of my body. The sizzling sensation beneath my skin made me feel like I was floating in air. Whoa. He was there, right in front of me. I had to crane my neck to look up to him even in heels. He was extremely tall. The house created a hard line of shadow right across the bottom of his face, leaving his eyes to reflect the sun. At first glance from far away, I thought they were just pure black, but because he was standing so close to me, I could see a couple of flecks of blue around his iris. He opened his and closed his lips like he was saying something, but I cowled and hear anything but the buzzing noise. Subconsciously, I inched closer to him, allowing him to place his palm across my right cheek. Everything stopped. The sizzling skin, high-pitched drone, and overwhelming feeling my wanting to claw out my skin abruptly stopped. Finally, a peaceful feeling washed over me. I could finally see him properly. No more tunnel vision. No more overwhelming nausea, but a new sensation of an anchor settled at the back of my mind. That missing feeling had disappeared. I leaned into his palm, loving the way his skin felt against mine. Finally, I saw him properly. I was able to get past the emotional ordeal to notice his horizontal scar on the side of his neck, really close to his artery. Only silver can leave a scar on a wolf. Before I know what was happening, my fingertips flitted across the raised, rough texture of his skin. A small tremor raked through my body at the thought of him nearly dying, not being able to see meet him. The concern must have shown my face because other hand wrapped around my wrist with. He shook his head slightly. I'm okay, goddess. The silver must have traveled down to his throat because his voice sounded grated. I looked at him clearly. His full dark pink-brown, tinted lips enticed me in sexual levels that I've never experienced before. His nose was not necessarily narrow but straight. Heavy stubble around the lower section of his face added to his rugged hair. He looked like he combed his midnight black hair back, but instead it looked like it stuck out in every different direction. I wanted to run my hands through it. Clearing of a throat dragged me out of this fog I was under. My head abruptly turned towards my dad, standing uncomfortably close to us with an annoyed expression on his face. I immediately stepped back, feeling like I got caught doing something I was. Well, isn't this cozy? My dad's remark made the guy holding me growl at the back of his throat, but he immediately let me go. I wouldn't have cared what my dad said. I finally found my mate. I wanted him to hold me. I guess you finally found your mate. My father's eyes softened when he looked at me instead of my mate. You'll go tell your mother the good news. He quickly took the steps before disappearing inside, leaving Aaron and Macy standing next to a couple of luggage. The car was gone. Probably in the garage, but I missed that whole commotion. I looked back to my mate, who was standing a couple of feet away from me, staring intently into my eyes. I have to go with your dad to meet Alfred Alton before we attend the gala. I melted slightly inside from the intensity always of his voice. He cleared his throat, trying to sound not so gruff. You'll need some time to get ready before. I don't want to be rude by being late to either. However, he stood there studying me from head to toe before sharply inhaling. Swearing under his breath, he looked agitated. We stood there somewhat awkwardly. Macy and Aaron stood not too far away, pretending not to eavesdrop. Okay, I said out loud. He sprang into action immediately. I guess he needed my permission. I wondered what would have happened if I had said no and wanted to speak to him. Alphys didn't ask for permission. A mate's pull was stronger than any other connection in the supernatural world. He walked over to the pile of luggage and picked out the smallest one before heading towards the stairs. He paused with one step on the bottom stair. You'll be there, right? His expression looked pained. Yes, I'm hosting, I replied. He whipped his head towards me in shock, then an understanding settled into his eyes. With a nod, he jogged up the stairs to where my dad was probably waiting before he went to my mother. I saw Aaron's head whip up in shock towards where my mate disappeared before frowning. It looked like Aaron received a command. He picked up the remaining two luggage, the large one belonging to Macy and the medium one was probably Aaron's, and followed his alpha closely behind. Good to see you again, Naya. He threw a greeting over his shoulder with a small smile on his face. That left Macy and me. She was tiny. She was barely 5 feet, but so full of personality that you couldn't look over her. The smile in her face was contagious and I couldn't help but throw myself at her, engulf her in a tight hug. Oh my goddess, you're here. She squealed in my ear, hugging me so tight. My lungs nearly gave out. What are you doing here? I thought you were going to Casavio. She unwounded her arms from around my back and placed her hands on my arms, not letting me go. I couldn't be bothered and my room was done before I left college, so I decided to just stay and help out. Dad took pity on me, even though he didn't say that. I rolled my eyes, but I could see it, you know. Yeah, she nodded sympathetically. My heart was still racing uncontrollably. My inside was turning from the confrontation with my mate. I didn't know what to do after that. We were told so much about what a mate is and what happened to them after they met theirs that nobody told me specifically what to do when I met mine. Instead of dealing with it, I decided to catch up with my friend no matter how much I wanted to go after him. But anyways, he asked to plan the gala to take my mind of things and just everything worked out just fine. I realized how happy my heart was. There was this subliminal emotion at the back of my mind, and it made me feel whole. Yay, why, she exclaimed. The soft sun kept disappearing every now and then, leaving a gloomy gray effect all around. The sun didn't manage to melt all of the heavy snow, but that was okay. We loved the cold. I cannot believe this. I mean, what the hell? I exclaimed, placing my palm against my forehead in astonishment. Laughter was bubbling up in my belly at the coincidence. I know, right? If I had known earlier, I would have made sure you came over. She shook me slightly with excitement. I know. I mean, every time I wanted to come over, you'd somehow managed to get away. Yes, every time I told Air and you wanted to come over, he always found to get me here where we all could be together. My family and you guys. The smile never left her face. Her eyes bugged out suddenly. Do you realize you're mated to the Alpha Ocean ever, right? She asked in awe. What do you mean? I knew of him, but we didn't hear much about him on this side of the world. Well, well, of course HES not a big deal here or any other hemispheres, but HES one of the most known and respected alphas in the Northern Hemisphere. I haven't been to many PACs around because of final year of college, but whenever there are PAC meetings, you could see how much other alphas respects him. She finished in one breath. That's nice. I changed the subject, not knowing what to say about his accomplishments. I felt somewhat ashamed that I didn't pay much attention to PACs who weren't as modern. They always seemed closed off to new ideas and acted too high and mighty to be in the presence of humans. I guess I had the wrong idea too. I'm sorry I didn't make it your graduation. She had sent me a video that Erin recorded when she received her diploma. We headed inside and started walking towards my room. That's okay. I always thought we would graduate together like always, but I'm happy I at least got to graduate. She made an apprehensive face while we walked up the marble stairs surrounded by long pillars. AWW. I feel bad for Aaron in a way that he had to stay away from him considering he as a beta, but it was awfully understanding of his alpha to let him do that. When Macy told me that they had to live outside the pack for a whole year so Macy could finish her studies, I was astonished. It made sense that people living there were apprehensive about hunters and people following her back to Ivdivd. It was hard. Aaron and I fought a lot at first. You remember. Who thought having a mate would be easy. But damn, I didn't stay mad at him for long. We made a right when we reached the top of the stairs leading towards the open hallway that led to my room and past what was the right wing where Macy was staying with Aaron and my mate. I didn't bring myself to say his name. I didn't know why. Maybe it would make everything official. I didn't think meeting your mate would be that awkward. I know, right? When I first met him, I didn't know what to say. Or what to do. I just stood there. At least you said words. I laughed at her while she opened the door to my room. Wow, what a big change. Kinda digging this whole dark look. Thank you. Thinking back to the conversation with him, I suddenly had an epiphany. Vampire deception. I Drake Mason and EY Gwet. As an undocumented changeling, I'm forced to pose as a low-level witch. How did he know who I was? I asked. Common sense. Scent. I don't know. She plopped herself on my king-size bed and looked at me like I was stupid, then creased her eyebrows thinking it through herself. Honestly, I don't know. I hardly saw him when I was there. I just moved into the pack compound. Maybe he's supposed to know alphas and future alphas. Yeah, but well, you know the names but not the faces. Right. I knew about every alpha out there even if I hadn't met some. It was my duty to. True. I'll ask Karen. Speaking of which, I think something's wrong because I can feel that HT is feeling agitated. She put a hand over her heart. Still sprawled like a starfish. I should go get ready for tonight. Yes, the guests will be arriving shortly. I looked at my phone to check the time. I'll see you down soon. I only went out to surprise you and imagine my surprise. I said, thinking back to my mate. Give me a minute. She looked like she was about to fall asleep. I had truly missed her. Her short chestnut-colored hair with big hazel eyes made her look like a doll. The cute but unnose and bow-shaped lips added to her aesthetic. I'm really happy to you. I told her, walking closer to the bed. I missed your bed. I laughed knowing she was half joking. She loved his bed. She tried to take my mattress when we left for college. As kids we would crash here so many times. This house was like her second home. Knowing I had to greet guests in an hour, I made my way downstairs only to be halted in place at top of the curved staircase. Aaron and my mate looked like they were in a heated conversation or maybe just finished one as they stood outside the room my mate. No, Ocean was staying in. They were telepathically communicating and Ocean looked furious while Aaron looked perplexed. I guess Macy was right. Ocean's head abruptly whipped towards me. He stared at me for a long moment before his expression relaxed. He tried to form a small smile but failed. Turning quickly, he headed towards his room with a glance back and softly closed the door. I wanted to ask Aaron what about if everything was all right, but I decided it was none of my business. Making my way down, I tried to ignore the secondary emotion I was feeling inside. Not anger, but restlessness. I knew that was me because I was ready for tonight. I thought of the way Macy had felt Aaron's emotion. It takes a while for that bond to grow. To be able to be in tune with each other. And why was I able to feel his emotions even though we just met? 2.5 fireworks nay is P. Oh, how V! The golden hall seemed to glimmer and under the crystal chandelier. Everyone was making their way around, greeting each other. Friends catching up after a long time of not seeing one another. New friendships were being made. People would think so many alphas in one room might cause a problem, however tonight was not about politics or who had the better pack. I was about celebrating our existence and that after being hunted for so many years, we made it this far. We thanked the goddess and the spirits for that. The invitation cards had mentioned the theme for tonight was dark colors formal attire. I loved how the black, navy, dark red or purple dresses the ladies wore created a stark contrast against the light colors in the room. The black suits made all these alphas look more like businessmen. I smiled to myself. It was definitely a success. The band was playing soft jazz from the corner of the stage. Lucy? Is the entree ready? I asked her through the mental connection that every alpha was gifted with since first transformation. Yes, the plates are being set. Give me 5 minutes, please. Take 10 and let me know before you get your people start bringing anything in. Yes, okay. Thank you. She sounded frantic. It was nearly 50 for people. 27 alphas, some with +1's wives or betas. Some came alone. My eyes immediately found Ocean, sitting alone on his table, waiting to be joined by his beta and Macy. My family and the Williams. When I had planned this, I never in a million years thought I'd be sitting there with my mate. I hadn't had a chance to speak to my mother properly yet, but she hugged me tightly right before we started greeting people in with teary eyes. My heart felt heavy seeing him so alone in a room full of people. He looked somewhat sad. I was told that meeting one's mate doesn't mean you love them instantly. It means you can't love or touch or be attracted to anybody else. You are given the perfect being that was created for you, and slowly but surely you see why. Everything about each other fits perfectly into shape. Without thinking, I made my over to him. Even among a crowd filled with high-pitched laughter, loud, prideful conversation, and numerous high heels tapping on the marble, he heard me walk towards him. His eyes met mine. Standing up quickly, he pulled out the chair next to him for me. Instead of sitting down, I allowed myself drink him in for the second time. He had shaved. His hair was sleeked back. Black shirt. Black suit with dark maroon tie. I smiled wide. He caught my gaze, then looked at my dress before looking away. His hand came up to loosen the tie a little to reveal his untopped button. He looked slightly embarrassed, but still as handsome as ever. In the low light, his hooded eyes looked nearly black. I wondered if that blue tint was my imagination or not. You look beautiful. I should have said it earlier. He motioned for me to sit down. Clearing his throat again, he offered a champagne glass that he picked up from a waiter before sitting down. Thank you. I didn't expect this to happen. Here, so abruptly. I took the glass from him, consciously making the decision not to touch him, so I held it by the stem. You're welcome, but I didn't even properly introduce myself. I know who you are and you know who I am already. It was more of a statement than a question. Yes, but I didn't know you'd be here. Macy was complaining about not seeing you on the plane. He cleared his throat again. My hand itched to touch his scar, soothe the pain as much as I could. These new obscure feelings seemed so natural. It baffled me. I wanted to surprise her. Imagine my surprise. I smiled at him. Finally, a smile escaped his lips. Not a full-blown, teeth-showing smile, but a semi-crypt one. One emanated nostalgia. Macy talks about you a lot. He kept his eyes locked to mine. There was this flare there I didn't understand. Something he was trying to say but couldn't voice it yet. It sounded like Ocean knew Macy well, but she said she hardly saw him. Must have relayed the information. The why. What am I thinking? I wondered stupidly. Macy was in his pack. Officially. So of course he will be able to feel everything and communicate it mentally, like I could with the members of my pack. But what am I missing? My instinct was on high alert. We stared at each other for a long moment. The hectic room around us became a hazy, colorful motion picture. Time slowed down, then sped up again for a moment. The lights created flares and varying sizes of bokehs. People in my peripheral left colorful streaks when they moved, but he held my full attention. His eyes said more than his expressions. He had a hard face, but his eyes emote deep pain. Eyes that had seen too much, lived too long for his age. My inside called out to him. I wanted to talk to him, know everything about him, like my life was tied to his. A small memory flickered through my mind. He appeared much younger than the man sitting right in front of me, a much mischievous version of him due to the smirk on his face. He came at me, backing me up against a wall of lockers. What the hell? Startled, I leaned back quickly in my chair. Shaking my head slightly, I noticed he imitated my reaction. Before either of us could comment on it, retired Alpha Jace Loroso from Northern rudely interrupted us. I hear congratulations are in order. He slapped a hand on Ocean's back adoringly. In his mid-50s, he still looked as handsome with salt and pepper hair, prime and pristine like the all other werewolves. Finally, he paused to look over at me. And may I say a very lucky one, Ocean. Standing simultaneously me with lesser grace than he, we greeted him and their cur Alpha Onyx together. He was 28 and recently started running the pack. He couldn't bring his mate because she was heavily pregnant. Thinking of, they hardly stepped outside their own grounds, let alone travel to a whole different hemisphere. The conversation flew swiftly between Ocean and Jace. Onyx appeared much closer to my mate in age, but there was a real sense of familiarity between the older Alpha and Ocean. Ocean didn't like to use his voice much, but with Alpha Loroso he didn't care. My observation was abruptly cut short because I had to deliver a small welcome piece before dinner arrived. The band played soft music throughout the whole dinner. I was supposed to sit between Sasha and Macy, but everyone discreetly tried to rearrange themselves, so it came to be me sitting next to Ocean. We didn't speak properly throughout dinner, just courteous small talks. I was itching for more. There was this sizzling along my skin, an electric surge simmering just under the surface, especially on the side of my body that was closest to Ocean. I saw him elegantly shuffle around instead of squirming. I tried to hide my nervousness, but it was end on my face. There were moments when we brushed against each other, skin to skin, intensifying the heat between us. A couple of stolen glances, making sure the other didn't notice. But we did. I was dying to be alone with. We were the topic of every conversation. Heads were being turned from all tables. I concentrated on some whispers, catching snippets of conversations. Oh my, who would have thought they would meet now? Alpha pairing. Isn't that going to be interesting? To strong-headed leaders. What's going to happen when she leaves? Isn't she supposed to be the alpha here? One thing I was confident about was our pack would accept our beta Alex as the leader. Problem was a lot of traditional packs won't accept it. They needed a male pure-blooded alpha. I'd have to speak to my dad about it. My father sat across from Ocean, scrutinizing his every move. I inherited his stormy gray eyes, olive complexion and ebony black hair, dark and dangerous Andrew Cato, whereas my mother looked open and welcoming. My father's mood had soured since I saw him in our front garden. I wanted to ask him about it, but it was the right time. After dessert, the big glass doors at the back were opened in as the host. It was my job to escort everyone outside for the final event of the night. Fireworks. Our back garden was huge. The houses were miles apart. The hedges were trimmed in various shapes. Zigzag brick pathways rigged its way through the designs of the green. In the summer, the gardens held pink and purple tulips, baby pink, peonies, and blue dahlias, and a large collection of orchids. My favorite was the blue orchid with purple veins. I knew exactly where they were, even though they were all dead for the winter. Everyone spread themselves around the pitch black garden. The lights in the house were all turned off. It allowed everyone to experience the full force of the fireworks show. Complimentary music blasted through the speakers that were put outside that morning. Colorful lights danced along to the music. It was a beautifully crafted piece by a werewolf firework company. Whoever would have thought there was such a thing? I could feel Ocean somewhere in the background, blending in with the shadows. I wanted to know what he thought of it. I wanted his approval. I never needed anyone's approval, but I wanted to impress him. I remember once a couple of years ago, we went to Central Hemisphere and they put on a show about the beginning of time. The community, they're the largest sanctuary for any supernatural kind, surrounded by the biggest forest ever. That was the only place where I saw my first set of pixies. They were beautiful creatures, absolutely tiny with luminescent sheer wings. Dean might be my favorite place ever. Even though they had a treaty with the central government to protect the natural forest, they were still in danger of being discovered. The best way to hide is in plain sight. That's why our pack never got attacked or even came close to being found. All we had to do was avoid Silver and we were good. For now. When the lights came on, everyone cheered and all. It was an amazing feeling have done my father proud. The fairy lights came on after allowing everyone to give some fresh air and another opportunity to mingle. I received many congratulations from my mate. Finding a mate was equivalent to being engaged in human world. Only problem was that I didn't know my mate at all. It was past 2 when the last group of guests decided to leave. I caught up with a couple of people that I hadn't seen in a year. It was lovely, but by 11 Notion disappeared. His beta was in charge of creating relations with other packs. Ocean seemed close to his northern packs. Hence he stayed with Alpha Jace. I caught him sneaking glimpses at me, then look away the moment I caught him. They gave me butterflies in my stomach. I felt like a high school kid. It took me a while to get back to my room after writing checks to everyone, but by then I was shattered. There was a huge misconception about werewolves being superhuman and never experienced fatigue. But wolves got tired and so did humans. Therefore, I was exhausted the end of the night. I was just able to get my heels off when I caught a scent right outside my door. It was Ocean's. A distinctive smell tempted me in ways I never thought was possible. I took a deep breath, waiting for the knock, but it never came. His heartbeat seemed above average for a werewolf. His breaths were even to my acute hearing. I didn't want him to walk away. Without giving him the time to retrieve, I yanked the door open. His head was down, chest rising and falling. Hair in desire, he looked distressed. He was wearing cargo shorts and a simple light black tee, shirt that stretched over his body. It was now or never. "Do you want to come in?" I asked sensibly, trying to keep the ravaging urge at bay. He contemplated for a moment, looking confused. He looked back towards the darkened hallway that led to his room. With a loud sigh, he stepped inside, closing the door behind him. 3 scar nay as P. Oh fee. We stood there awkwardly for a few moments. We were strangers meant for each other, destined to be together for the rest of our lives. Annoyed with the apprehension and awkwardness, I took the lead. After all, I was an alpha too. It was in my nature. "Would you like to sit down?" I indicated towards the sofa past my bed near the balcony. Instead, he slowly raked his gaze from one end to the other. I was the most patient person, but I liked looking at him. He looked big but not menacing unless provoked. A man who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, causing him to hunch his back slightly. His contours appeared much tighter for that reason. I didn't understand why my hands kept itching to slide my fingers through his hair. The hairs on my neck tingled. He ran his fingers over the maroon wall next to the closet arch. One side of his down-turned lips lifted slightly in amusement. His eyes drifted towards my dress. Instead of pointing out the obvious, he leaned his back against the wall. The lights were dim in this room. Outside, snow began to fall. It was perfect timing now that everyone was inside. "You missed the fireworks," I reminded him. I watched it from my window. It was beautiful. He was looking straight at me. Something wasn't right. I could feel it. "Thank you." I didn't mind the fact that he didn't stay for long, but I wanted to know why. "Oh, thank you for the tie." I was accustomed for mates to appear united. It was a very old-fashioned custom, but we tried to keep it alive. It would have been rude if I didn't. I wanted to ask him if it was a coincidence or not, but I held my tongue. This was neither the right place nor the right time. I realized we were both calm wolves. Alphas need to be strong when under attack, calm when thinking logistics, and confident when leading. "Are you planning on taking over after your father retires?" He finally looked at me. The shadows danced across his face. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I don't want to run a pack. I've always felt like there's something more for me to conquer. I wanted to visit all the packs in the world. One half of the reason was to find my mate. The other was to learn about how many of us were alive. There are still some packs no has ever been to. I want to find a way to unite us. Live in harmony, not hiding. I didn't know if that was even possible, but I wanted to try. "You," he urged. "I don't know if it's the right choice for me. I've thought about this since I realized my parents were hell-bent on me running the pack. Is it because of what some other packs think, that a male should always be the leader?" He looked royally offended. "Not necessarily. I Unable to explain it to him, I just ruffled my curls to one side. His eyes followed the movement. I don't know. I guess I was looking for something. I was looking for him, but after a while I was just angry. Are you still looking? I stopped. I was supposed to be in Kasavio, but I gave up trying to find you. And now I don't know what to do. I felt like a kid who wished for one thing for so long because everyone around her was getting that. After a while I stopped wishing. I had accepted that it wouldn't happen for me. I was ready to take over the pack. Now that I have what I had wished for. I didn't know what to do with it. He heard the accusation in my voice, an anger that laced my words. He looked angry at first, but then appeared remorseful. It's my fault. I hardly ever leave our compounds, nor do I usually allow outsiders. He stayed far away from me even though I wanted him next to me. The conflict feeling of resentment and craving confused me. Then why did you come now? It was important. A lot of my wolves were taken by hunters. I know you guys don't have that problem here, but it isn't like this where I live. We were speaking as alphas, not mates. A mate is not important. Of course it is. He reached me in the blink of an eye, grabbing me by my upper arms, lifting me to my tiptoes. My heart jumped for a semi-second. My hand automatically grabbed onto his sides. His t-shirt balled up in my first. It's the most important thing in the world. His intensity scared me. I became lightheaded with his heat. My throat tightened. Then why didn't you come for me? I went everywhere I could, but you never came. I didn't know him. I had no right to ask him, but for some reason I felt like he was mine. Of course. We were fucking mates. That's why. But it was just that. When I felt his skin on mine, it didn't feel new. It felt like it belonged there. Like it's been there before. Because I couldn't live if those hunters ever got to you. Like they did with my parents. You think I would allow my mate to enter a place where she would be harmed? I was trying to fix it before I came looking for my mate. He spoke with such ferocity that it shook me to my core. He shook me slightly, making me lean into him chest to chest. Without shoes, the top of my head barely reached his chin. His body was shaking. My skin burned where he touched me. What now? What do we do now? I wrapped my hands around his, feeling the muscles stretch under my fingers. You stay here. What? I pushed away from him, outraged by suggestion. Instead, one of his hands went around my back, the other cupped my chin, making my lips pout out slightly. I will not allow anything to happen to you. His eyes started to change. The blue hue was back. Just a couple of streaks that would only be seen up close. Just met me. I was having trouble understanding his intensity towards. My whisper broke the spell he was in. Setting me down on my feet, he backed away again. I watched him struggle with an internal battle. A hand on his hip, the other one, and his hair made him look frustrated. No, you're right. Now that I have met, you must come with me. That's the only way. He stopped mumbling after that. I knew we had secrets. Like I said, we just met. But there was something bigger going on with him. I knew there was no way he was going to tell me about it right now, so I didn't bother to ask. Look. I understand. You're coming with me. Start packing. I'm going to see if we can delay our flight and get an extra seat. He tried to storm out of the room, only to have me whiz past him to block his path. If you have some other chick, then just say. Ocean grabbed me in a similar way. Thumb on one cheek and fingers on the other. His palm cupping my chin, putting slight pressure on cheeks. He parted my lips, before his hot mouth descended upon mine. A multiple sensation bombarded me all at once. A dormant fire ignited in me. I grabbed his hair and the back of his neck. One of his hands kept a firm grip on my chin, while the other arm caged me in from the back. His stubble grazed the skin around my mouth, tongues invading each other's mouth. I tugged on his hair. Hard. Thug. I was punishing him for some reason. I felt the hollowness of his voice when he spoke against my open mouth. Our bodies were pressed tightly against each other, and I wondered about what would happen if our clothes weren't on. Our lips fought sloppily, brushing against one another. We both moaned when his pelvis grounded against my stomach. That broke the trance we were in. He stepped back like I burned him. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. We both were panting heavily. He couldn't seem to regain composure. There is no one. Never been. Never will be. His voice was a deep whisper. I could feel the strain in his voice. Inching forward like a predator, I rested my hand on his neck with my thumb on the scar right under his Adam's apple. He softened slightly but still kept his distance. I got on my tiptoes, bracing myself against his chest. I kissed his scar. A loud croak while my own left clawed through his throat. Oh, Naya. He hugged me and tucked me under his chin tenderly, cupping the back of my head with his hand. I sprawled my fingers across his back, holding him tightly. Come with me, please. He stroked my hair for a couple of seconds in a soothing motion before planting a kiss on my forehead. Then, he was gone and I didn't stop him this time. The meeting went better than expected. We used the same hall, but all the decorations were changed. The stylish chairs were replaced with comfortable armchairs and a huge table in the middle. Right after lunch, all the alphas, heirs and betas arrived. This was the real reason why most packs gathered together. I sat next to my dad at the head of the table. Ocean sat opposite while Alpha Alton sat next to me. Alphas had issues with not being able to lead, but whichever pack hosted led the meeting, or it would be a chaos with all the alphas butting heads. This was my first ever meeting. I usually went with my mom to meet more people of the community. It was astonishing how little we knew about the northern packs. Around 50 wolves had gone missing and no one knew why. Some believed that they were killed by hunters but didn't understand why they would take their bodies when they used to just kill them. Alpha Augustine from Central Hemisphere made a perfectly good explanation. Maybe the hunters didn't want to leave evidence behind because of the law enforcement. No one would believe that hunters are killing people because they can turn into wolves. That's a one-way ticket to the psych facility. Ocean vetoed the idea considering he had lost 13 members of his pack since he became the Alpha, excluding his parents. Alpha Jace LaRusso was the neighboring pack. I had heard about Red Mountain, it always felt familiar to me, but I have never been there. They lost 20 over the last couple of decades and many more from other packs. I thought of suggesting integration with the human community, but that would be blaming the innocent werewolf for getting killed. They had a right to live wherever they wanted without being threatened by anyone. Every now and then, when I'd speak or suggest an idea for any of the topics being discussed, some alphas tried to absolutely dismiss the idea, but others welcomed it because they were beneficial for their community. Ocean glowered at everyone who acted like I didn't matter. Alpha Jace looked familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Other than that, everything else went smoothly. The Northers packs were going to tighten the perimeter of their land. It was known they would install security cameras for the sake of a werewolf being caught while transforming, but motion sensor security would be something they would try to experiment with, which meant there would be no more running free. They would have to have a curfew, but once in the woods, they were on their own. I haven't shifted in a while and I could understand their apprehension. A hunter with a gun full of silver bullets can wound a werewolf enough to have them incapacitated. The most lethal bullet would contain molten silver in it, and once it gets inside the veins, there's no turning back. Another way was to decapitate a werewolf. There was no coming back from that. Murders like that were investigated by the local police, and every so often a werewolf family reviewed a human justice. When we were human, our DNA structure remained human, and when we were wolves, our DNA changed to a wolf's. No human scientist would have been able to figure out where the hidden gene lay that allowed us to transform, but we thank the spirits for that. Otherwise, it would be a chaos for all supernatural beings.